it is big game week, just a couple days away. We're here. I mean, it's happening, Richard.
It went fast, but it's so cool because there's so many unique things to talk about in this game.
There's a ton. Before we get to this game, like in particular, I have a question. Are you for moving the Super Bowl around, like Los Angeles, Miami, New Orleans, Dallas, or would you be for one fixed location? I've wondered that.
I guess I haven't really thought about that, but I would think that it wouldn't be fair because it generates such great revenue for the host cities. That I think
there are people who say they want it in New Orleans every year, and it's the perfect venue. It's a walkable district, but you do bring up a great point that then other cities would get skimped out of revenue. I don't know. It's an off the wall question.
It's a good question because I would actually like to ask Dr. Google what amount of revenue is generated from a Super Bowl. But so I don't know if I like that idea, and I certainly wouldn't make it New Orleans. If I was doing that, it would be either Los Angeles. It would be a Sunshine State, Los Angeles, Miami. But I would not make it New Orleans at all.
No. Well, you asked the amount of revenue. I bet it starts with a B and not an M.
That's sure. Maybe we can Google that.
Yes,
maybe we can Google that before the end of the show, Dan. Yeah.
What do you have in particular to this game? As we grow closer, you know what the feeling that I get from people. As soon as it was decided, the championship games were done, and it was the Rams and it was Cincinnati, it was like, it's a good story with Cincinnati. The closer we get, it feels like more and more people are giving Cincinnati a real chance. That's just what I've gotten from people.
Well, may I go back a step before we get into that game or this game? In our other show that I do with your sister station, Bubba, we discussed, our host or guest yesterday was Arthur Moats.
I saw.
Man, I was really surprised. What a good guy he is. Not surprised that he's a good guy, but he's very articulate. And I hope you do listen to the show Sunday at 1. But I asked him the first question. I said, Arthur, I want to ask you one question right out of the gate. And he said, you want to ask me about the quarterback? I said, no, I don't. I want to ask you about Keith Butler's comment that Mike Tomlin called all the defenses. And you know what he said?
What?
He never saw that. He said he saw Keith Butler making the play calls. Now, maybe Mike Tomlin had influence. I mean, it is his team. And maybe in their schematic of, how they were going to prepare for the game in the early week, maybe Mike was, mandating certain things, which he should. But he said, no, he never really saw that. And I thought that was really an interesting point.
That is a very interesting point.
What say you about that?
What, about the play calling?
About Arthur's take on that.
Well, he's a couple years removed. That's one thing. And the second thing is, he lived it, so it's hard for me to question. But then again, whenever something falls into question, such as Keith Butler's comments, I always wonder who would benefit from not telling the full truth. And would Keith Butler, who we yelled and screamed and bemoaned for years, like 2-3 years, would he serve to gain? Probably, if he said, well, that was someone else. But then why would he wait till he was out the door?
Because then there were no repercussions. There couldn't be repercussions or blowback.
But he could have.
And I don't think he's that kind of guy. But the information drives the conclusion.
He could have floated that to a reporter without being on the record saying that. Like, hey, let me call you, and let me tell you this. I'm not really the guy making the play calls 2-3 years ago. I seem to think that the truth's in the middle, and it has been this whole time, that Keith Butler might make the in-game play calls, and Mike Tomlin, from a philosophical standpoint, devise the defense.
Yeah, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But I think the way it's been positioned, and even by Keith, it makes it appear as if Mike Tomlin had total control and Keith Butler had none. And to me, there's really only one reason for that. It was the worst defensive performance that we've had in how long? I mean,
they didn't hold a candle to Steel Valley Ironman. I'll tell you that much. They did. They didn't. They couldn't tackle. What got me is this isn't measurable, Richard, but they just didn't run to the ball with ferocity. They didn't look, and again, it's not measurable in stats or whatever. It just didn't look like a swarm like we're used to. You know what I
no.
mean?
When that really began, because we didn't have it for a while, and then we got it, and then we lost it. But when we got it, the man on the field that created that was Ryan Shazier.
I agree.
That's when we finally got it. We drafted an athlete. It wasn't bulk, it was speed, and we recognized that. And I think that watching some of these playoff teams, which we will again over the weekend, you will talk about ferocity, you will see it. And that's the difference. Even watching some of the Monday night games, you see different teams and you can tell the difference. You can really tell the difference. It's an intangible. It's an X factor. It's the it factor. What is it? Can't describe it, but it's real, right? So yes, I agree with that. Now we can talk about the big game,
the big game,
the big game.
Who's the most important person in this game? Player, coach, running back, quarterback. Who's the single most guy that this result hinges on? Do you think?
Interesting question. I don't think it does. I think it's certainly not a player. I think it's going to be the way the coaching staff prepares them, to the mentality they take into that game. Listen, they're all pretty equal in talent. I mean,
because I have an answer.
Okay, well then let me hear yours.
If Joe Burrow doesn't have a great game, there's no way Cincinnati can win.
Okay.
That's just the way. Like, if he has an okay game, they can't win. If he has a bad game, there's no chance in heck. He has to have a great game.
But wouldn't you say that same thing about Matthew Stafford?
No, because I think if both quarterbacks have bad games, the Rams can win defensively. I don't think Cincinnati's defense can lead them to a win.
Well, that's really an interesting point and a good one, actually. I mean, I like that point, but big but. I'm looking at I'm looking over here, and I'm seeing. First of all, did you see the Super Bowl sweatsuits provided to the players?
White?
I love those. I want one. But I see my man right in there getting off the plane, and his name is Joe Burrow. I don't see him having a bad game.
I think he has to have a great game. And look, I think Cincinnati has a real chance, but I think he has to have like a 34 of 39 for 322 yards and 3 touchdown kind of game.
I don't think he's doing 320 yards against that defense. I don't think that's happening. So maybe we're talking me into a different perspective. But yeah, you're good at that.
Yes,
because I started out with Joe, but I don't see a 300-yard game, and maybe I'm wrong. I mean, I don't know if he's going to have enough time. I mean, Aaron Donald just happens to be pretty darn good.
Oh, he's super good.
And I think we're going to over prepare for him. There was one thing, interestingly, that Arthur Moats said when we interviewed him was, I asked him his most memorable game, and he went to a Miami game. And remember an offensive guard named Richie Incognito?
Oh, yeah. I think the world does, yes.
Pretty dirty player, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they say, allegedly. And he said that, I think he was a rookie, he said. And, his style was to spin and go inside. And one of the vets on the Steelers told him not to use that against Richie Incognito. And he said, hey, I was young, I was cocky. I thought, hey, you know what? I can handle this. And so he's like, the first play, He said, "Oh, I just had come off of a great game. I had an interception, et cetera, et cetera. I came off of a great game, and I have these veterans telling me don't do the spin move on Richie Incognito." And he said, "Well, they set me up, and very first play spin, and I was pancaked. I was flattened." He said he was on the ground. He said, and when he looked back at it, they set him up.
Oh
They
yeah.
for it. But they were ready because they had done their homework. He said he did not look at film as much as he ended up looking at film. So he was pretty open about all of that. My point being here, going back to the preparation and film and being able as Aaron Donald, because they'll prepare for Aaron Donald, but they may not prepare for the other guys that are equally as ferocious on that front line and or the linebackers. I mean, they are amazing defense. So to go to Arthur Moats's point, maybe Cincinnati's ready for that stunting, maybe. And the other thing I like about it is the youth of both coaches.
Think about this is an incredible topic. I think is. And we're talking too much about the racial makeup and the history and everything else of coaches right now. And this is something that's a bit of an escape from that, and I think it's great to talk about. If you take McVay and you take Zach Taylor both, do you know what two employers did? They said, we're going to hire two guys that have zero head coaching experience. They are both under 40 years old, and they, rather than being steeped in these X's and O's, being these whizzes, they are somebody whose first and foremost quality is that they connect with the people whose charge that they're above and who's under is that they're players. That is their preeminent quality. And I
agree with that 100%. I love that also. But didn't we also do the same thing as the Pittsburgh Steelers with Mike Tomlin?
Point taken. And here's the answer to that. When you do that, you have to absolutely know what the shelf life is. It may be until that person's 70. It might only be 5 years. If you hire that right person, and I think that is the way to go, the connection with the players. Some people can carry that message out for only 5 years and it gets stale. Some people can do it for 25 years. But I think it's brilliance in what they did. And you're right. They borrowed a page from the Steelers book. They not just did it with Tomlin. They did it with Cowher as well, Richard.
Oh, I didn't go back that far, but you're right. They did. But also, so to that point, then if you listen to Arthur Moats's interview, he talked about that because he asked him about that players coach thing. And he addresses it very articulately. And it's pretty simple that he says, it's not like, Bill or Mike Tomlin comes in and just like, hey, let's hang out with the guys. It's not that kind of players coach. You should really listen to the show. It's really an interesting take on what that means. But yes, the players coach, I want a guy that gets me on board. If I tell you, if you and I are in the service and we're on our last tour of duty and there's one bunker to go and I'm the sergeant and you're the private, and if I look at you and I know there's danger ahead, and if I look at you and I say, man, we got one more hill to take, Colin, one more. Okay, I'm going to set you up. I'm going to take care of you, man, but I want you to take that hill. And you're going to look at me and go, Bazzy, what the hell is the matter with you? Right? But if I say, let's take that hill together,
right,
and then we'll go home, then we'll see our family. Man, you're all in, right?
Right.
So don't tell me what to do. Show me. Be the guy. Be the guy that is part of the solution. Pull everybody in. Get the buy-in. I mean, I try to do that. That's called servant leadership. But and I think there's a great point to be made for that. And I think what you said about those two coaches is evident. I think that you can see it in his interactions with his players, with both players. The Los Angeles coach, man, he's just his energy is so contagious. And you know who his dad was?
McVay,
yeah, he was with the 49ers.
Right.
And so I think this is going to be really a fabulously exciting game to watch. I really do.
Let me ask you one more thing, and,
yes.
and I know we got to get out of here, but let me ask you one more thing. And it's a town that you've obviously spent time in because of the correlation with Ford, and that's Detroit, Michigan, right? I mean, you've obviously been there in your life before. Do you think if you're
I hate
someone who's do you think if you're someone who is in Detroit that you root for Matt Stafford to go get one now, or you don't have an opinion, or you root against him?
I don't really have an opinion about that, but that point does come to be full circle when the Rams are playing right at home.
Yeah.
At home.
I wondered that because it was
But-
kind of like this guy can never achieve for us. Do we feel good about setting him free and allowing him to achieve the highest somewhere else?
Well, the Lions happen to be owned by the Ford family, right?
Right.
So, what can I say? I don't know. I was never really a Matt Stafford fan, but he has shown himself to be pretty damn amazing.
I know. He's a Hall of Fame quarterback. You realize that.
Oh, you're jumping from here to the end.
Look
Stop
at the
it.
numbers.
Stop
If
it.
you look at the numbers, particularly how bad some of the teams were early in his career, well, midway through his career,
How long's he playing? How long's he been playing?
11 years or something,
Oh,
13
he's not
years.
Hall of Fame. He's not Hall of Fame.
If
No
you,
way.
especially if he wins Sunday, he is
If
a
he
Hall
wins
of Fame
Sunday,
quarterback.
then the clock to Hall of Fame begins, but certainly doesn't cement it. I don't think. The best thing I loved about him, I love him as a person. I loved when I saw his wife greet him on the field and jump up in his arms. I thought that was wonderful, and I thought it showed you what a really good guy he is. So I love him.
You know what I like about him on top of that too? He gets up every single time they beat the heck out of him. He is one of the most resilient football players I've ever seen. I mean, he really is.
Well, what was his record in Detroit? It wasn't very good.
No, it was not very.
It was not very good.
Average about 4 or 5 wins a year.
Yeah, but I never really understood that trade. So, but he's proving everybody wrong. But that
because
also
he's a Hall of Fame quarterback. That's why
he's not.
Yes,
listen,
he is.
He's not. But listen, it brings up another point that I have to touch on because I saw you post on Twitter, and I agree with you 100%. How do you hire a head coach with a 17-39 record and tell him to win? How do you do that?
Lovie Smith, I don't understand
how do you do that? Seriously.
Houston has gone so wrong that, in all honesty, they should have just kept the guy that they had, and it would have made more sense than anything else.
Except, this just came to my little brain. Let me tell you what it is. If I take that same analogy and apply it to Matt Stafford in Detroit, I would say the same thing. Why would we invest in a franchise quarterback that's never won? Same
Fair
thing.
Point.
Right?
I can understand that. Yeah.
And I really only just thought of that as you were talking. But back to the head coach. So the 1739, I wouldn't hire a 1739 coach personally. But remember, somebody's success, it depends on where you plug them in, because somebody's success may not be able to be evident in their current structure. Ben Roethlisberger, for example, Ben's initial success was because we were able to plug him into a system that was already up and running, and we basically wanted Ben not to lose the game for us, right?
Right.
That was his goal. Don't lose the game.
Just game manager, right?
Game manager, right? So maybe Ben somewhere else might have been not so great, right? Because we had a system that suited him perfectly. So maybe systems matter, and maybe circumstance and players matter. But no, I don't think I would have hired 1739.
No. I wouldn't have done it. All right, you ready for a prediction? You're not huge on predictions, but it's the big game. I mean, we've got to make a prediction here.
Okay.
I think Cincinnati will lose at the very end on a walk-off field goal by the Rams. It'll be a 3-point game or a 2-point game, one of the two. The Rams will win on a last-second field goal. That's the way I've felt about this game all along.
Okay, so I see that the line is 4.
Whoa, we got gambling Bazzy. What's going on here?
I'm taking the points, and if I take the points and the Bengals, then basically that kind of agrees with what you just said, because I still win the game.
Right.
If it's a walk-off 3, I get +4, I'm in.
Wow, that's very Mon Valley of you, Richard. Um, do you think that that's what's
That's a dick.
do you think that that's what's going to happen?
No, I don't agree with the walk-off. I do agree with the +4, though.
Oh, +4. But so you think that you do think that the Rams will win by 2-3 points?
I don't. I actually think that the Bengals are going to win the game.
Oh, they're going to win outright. They're going to win.
I think they are.
Wow.
I do.
Wow.
I think that all the pomp and circumstance, and we're going to see all the celebrities in the stands, and it's going to be nice and pretty, and it's going to be a great game to watch because of all that, and it's going to be a great game on the field. But at the end of it, my man Joe is going to be the guy. He really is. He's going to be. Listen, I'm going to tell you how much I like this kid. He came, and did you see? By the way, I have to say this. Did you see what Gronkowski said about him?
Oh yeah.
Gronkowski said, if I'm going to play and it's not Tom Brady, I'm going with the young buck. I want to go with the young buck. I love that he said that. But anyway, so I'm seeing him walk down the tunnel. I loved his coat and I loved his sunglasses. So I bought his sunglasses.
The square ones.
Yeah, I bought them. I love them.
They're like a throwback. They're like, those are back in from like the 70s.
I love them. I bought them.
You are something.
I'm in, man. I'm all in on Joe. I love Joe.
Oh, look at you. All right.
Love Joe. He is so cocky. But, and the problem, there's such a fine line between cocky and confident.
Right.
He's definitely over the line, and he's cocky.
I think he rides right on the edge. I think he's perfectly on the edge.
But he performs, and you can do that. Now, the other interesting thing I thought was he's older. His age is older. He's like 25, right?
Yeah, because he had the red shirt year, then he transferred and all of that. Yeah. Certainly. Wow.
So I'm in on Joe. I'm in on the Bengals. And I like the AFC North presence.
I'm in on the Rams last second. And with that, I guess we're out of here for a week. Man, what a football season.
I can't wait to see you next week.
I can't wait to see you next week.